Hello and welcome to the Bravas Luxury Living Podcast. Every time on this podcast, we try and find new things to talk about that are all about how you can make the technology in your luxury home work better and be more convenient and easy to use for you and really bring that home alive. If this is the first time you've joined us on the podcast, welcome. And if you're returning back, or even if this is your first time, don't forget to like and share and do all those things you do on your machine so other people could know you watch this podcast and you're enjoying it too. With me ever is Keith. Hello, Keith.
Hey, Nigel. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Keith, a couple of episodes ago, we had Noah Kaplan from our friends at Leon on, and he really talked about giving music back to, or you talked about giving music back to people, and he agreed. And I think this week's guest will help us take that to the next step, don't you?
Absolutely. I think I was actually referencing Sonos when I said that, so it's a good segue.
Okay, well then let me introduce JT Pruitt, the national trainer for Sonos. JT, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on, Keith and Nigel. I'm really excited to join you all. And like you said, Leon and Sonos kind of go, hand in hand. You talk a lot about Leon and you do bring up a lot about Sonos, and I'm a huge fan of their products and kind of how they fit into a lifestyle.
Perfect. JT, before we get any further, maybe you could tell us a bit about yourself, how you got to be the national trainer for Sonos, and maybe what the heck is the national trainer for Sonos?
Yeah, it's a really fancy title. I've been with Sonos 7 years this week, which is crazy. When I joined, I was a bright-eyed kid that loved technology, but really had no idea what was entail for his career. And as I started growing throughout my journey, I really found a niche in education, training and education, whether it's from our fantastic resellers that sell our products, or even just on a stage like this where I'm talking about our products. And of course, I'm very passionate about all things tech. I grew up in a home that was filled with a lot of tech. My parents had the latest and greatest technology. So from a young age, I learned, about speaker placement. I learned about TiVo when that was a thing. My parents had one of the very first TiVos that ever launched. So tech has been a part of my life since then. What does a national trainer do? I do this. I do a lot of podcasts. I have my own podcast through Sonos called Sonos Solutions. So just a quick plug there. We train on all products, all software, anything ins and outs wise of Sonos. You'll see me talking about them in some sort of format.
Well, we'll make sure we put a link in the speaker notes to that podcast so people can find it. There may be someone who's been living on the moon for the last few years who doesn't know who Sonos is. So it's probably a good place to start. Who is Sonos and where did you come from?
Oh man, the story is actually really interesting. We are almost coming up on our 20-year anniversary as a company, and when we started, our founders had this idea of being able to play music in the home. And while that's not really a crazy idea, think back 20 years ago, music was changing. Whether you got your music legally, illegally, however you decided to download it, that's what most people were doing. We went from vinyls to cassettes to CDs, and then we kind of faded into this, digital format. And really, we had this idea of playing digital music out loud in your home because we believe that music is meant to be played out loud. It's meant to bring people together. And there's a lot of studies that that back us up on that. So we had this idea of how do we do that? So we came out with our first products called the Connect and the Connect Amp. If you can remember them way back in the day, they've since been replaced by the Amp and the Sonos Port. But they were our first two kind of forays into this audio space. And we actually had our own controller back in the day that you played from Pandora or your own local files. It looked like a big, giant, sideways iPod. And then, of course, smartphones, right? Smartphones became the thing of the future. Now it seems like the thing of the present. And then we developed an app. So the goal of Sonos is to be able to play speakers anywhere in your home, whether it's architectural, whether it's home theater, or even just a Sonos One or a Sonos Move placed behind me right over my shoulder, plugged into an outlet, to be able to fill your home with music and enjoy it any way you want, whether it's through podcast listening, streaming services, or even through local radio.
Would you say that the strength of Sonos from the beginning was always the software or the hardware?
A little bit of both. It's a little bit of the magic sauce, we like to call it. A lot of people don't realize, our products our computers on the inside, they have a lot of software that kind of back them up. So not only our hardware that has software in it, but also our software on the app side really kind of bring everything together and bridge the gap as we continue to grow down the pipeline and be able to add new features. I talked about the Connect and the Connect Amp. We supported those for well over 10 years. And if you think about consumer electronics, that's a really hard thing to do, is support any product over a 2-year span or even a 10-year span.
Sure. Yeah, I think when we talk about the idea of giving music back to people, it really was that software that was so interesting. I remember my parents I don't remember listening to music in our house unless we were in the car. Right. And I go to college and come home and they've got Sonos in their house and they're passing the iPad back and forth, choosing music and playing all the stuff they loved. And it was just really interesting to see them interacting with it. And this, it was like they were flipping through old vinyl albums, but just on their iPad.
Yeah, the first time I got introduced with Sonos, this was probably 10 years ago, and it was a very similar situation. Went to a friend's house, and they had the original Play 5, and I believe a Connect, so a Connect hooked up to their existing stereo system, and being able to play music in multiple different locations, right? So the kitchen where the Play 5 was, and then the living room where that Connect was, they were playing the same music. So if you walk from the kitchen to the living room, the music was completely in sync, but also passing that iPad around. Oh, you remember this song? Let's play this song. Let's cue it up really quick. And like you said, it does remind you of flipping through those old vinyls.
I wonder, as we've been doing these podcasts really during the age of COVID, that we've all had different experiences of COVID. And I wonder how you guys have seen it. Has it changed the way you think people are enjoying music, the way they're interacting or interfacing with your products? How's that changed the world for you guys?
When you think about music in general, and you think about where most people listen to music, especially in the work environment, right? They listen to music on their way to work, and they listen to music on the way home, whether it's podcast, sports radio, streaming music, whatever it is. When we went kind of COVID lockdown, right? Everybody started staying at home, social distancing. How was that going to be replaced? Because me personally, and even my wife, like that is a routine that we are used to on a daily basis. So from a Sonos perspective, we saw a huge uptick in listening hours and the type of music that was being listened to. Most of the things that are listened to on Sonos is actually radio. So whether it's radio stations, sports radio stations, or even something from a free service like Pandora, where you just put on a playlist and go. And I know me personally, I've been work from home since I started with Sonos. So I've always been used to the idea of sitting down at my desk and throwing on a playlist and just being able to crush through whatever I'm doing on work, but also really have a good time. It kind of makes your brain think you're not working as hard as you really are because you're enjoying listening to music. It's almost like that calmness that comes over you.
As well as, listening to more music with COVID, we've also been, living, as you say, much more at home, which means we're looking much more at the technology in our home. Talk to us a bit about the design and Sonos and how important getting that design right is for you as a team.
Yeah, it's been one of our pillars from the beginning. All of our products, even dating back to when we first started launching them, we want to design products that obviously they sound good, right? That's first and foremost. They have to sound great no matter where they are. But also, if you think about from a design perspective, sound is also supposed to be heard and not seen. And the great thing about Sonos is whether it's a Sonos One or even the new Sonos ARC that connects to a television, when you mount that Sonos ARC on the wall, it's meant to kind of blend into to the background. You have these big, beautiful televisions that people are utilizing every day. We don't want to draw the attention away from that. So that's one way, but also thinking about how to incorporate sound into an architectural space, right? Not everybody wants to have a speaker placed on a kitchen counter because it does take up counter space. So being able to utilize the Sonos platform with a great pair of in ceilings or a outdoor solution or even an in-wall situation, it all kind of goes together with what we do. It has to sound great and it has to look pleasing too.
That's a really interesting way to think about the sound in the space. And I like that you mentioned the architectural side of it, because obviously in the custom side, that's what we do. Almost everything we do is, in the past, the Connect amps and the Connects going into big amps, going into architectural speakers. And I think that even 2 or 3 years ago, we would tell people, oh, yeah, you can use Sonos like that. And it was a surprise to people that they could have that kind of convenience, because people were still used to installed architectural speakers being hooked up to a volume control, being hooked up to some big stack of black boxes that no one could ever figure out how to use. And when we started talking to people about Sonos, they'd say, you know what, we have a system like that in our home and we never use it. And you get them to describe the process of using it. And after they go through like the 15 steps and having to leave the room and go upstairs, you're like, yeah, I don't think I'd use that either. And that just goes back to that giving people their sound back, giving people their music back, and letting them just experience it and enjoy it with the convenience of just pulling out their phone.
Yeah, it's everybody has those friends or family that has that piece of technology that they were given or they purchased, and they used it for once and they got really frustrated with it, and then they put it in a drawer and never used it again. And that's kind of the opposite of what we believe. We want it to be seamless. We want it to be easy. Time to music, to get music playing in your home, should not take forever. And just by a simple press of a button on top of any speaker, or asking a voice assistant to give you music to start playing is just a super seamless way of getting, get that party started.
Yeah, it's that Sonos Pandora combination for us, and I guess we have a non-Sonos system, but if it doesn't have that convenience, you don't use it. But if you can walk into your bathroom and just start your playlist in the morning with a single word or a single touch of a button, it is amazing how something that you just don't get to experience or choose not to experience, how often you'll use it when it becomes that simple.
How important is the voice control to that experience? Because we're not particularly voice controlled people at home. I'm a bit older than you guys, so I'm paranoid these people are going to sell me everything I talk about. So to get that ease, can it be done as easily without the voice control?
Absolutely. Voice control is just one simple way to add kind of a little flavor sauce to that, whether it's through Amazon or Google, or even great partners like JoshAI that really bring a more custom experience to not only Sonos, but to the design of a home. I use voice control in several different ways. Honestly, the main reason I use voice control is to turn my lights on and off, just by being able to, hey, I'm not going to say the name because it's going to trigger behind me, but hey, Amazon, for example, turn my lights off. Or
everyone listening to the podcast is grateful, by the way, that you're not turning their lights on and off.
Trust me, I've done enough of these to where I say the word and then I hear, a colleague's Sonos One in the background go off or whatever. But yeah, voice control is just a part, right? It's not an end all and be all. If you don't want to use it, you absolutely don't have to. We have so many different ways of controlling Sonos. Obviously first and foremost, the Sonos app, the easiest way, to not only dive into music that you want to see, control your rooms, control your volumes, but also we have great relationships with a lot of these streaming services like Pandora and Spotify, for example. We have this thing called direct control. So imagine at the time when you did travel and you did go to work or go to an office and you would listen to Spotify in the home. And then when you got home, you had to stop what you were listening to, open the Sonos app, go to Spotify, and then hit play again. Again, that is 3 steps too many to get music playing. So with these partnerships, we're able to do things where inside of the Spotify app, you can actually hit available devices as soon as you connect to your home network, and all of your Sonos speakers pop up. So you can easily just select, hey, I want to go to the kitchen. I want to send this audiobook, for example, to the kitchen and continue listening.
So given that you have a relationship with all those vendors, I guess we have to ask the question, why did Sonos start its own Radio HD?
It's a great question. Sonos Radio and Sonos Radio HD, we have 2 versions. Obviously, Sonos Radio is the free version that comes on all Sonos systems. And then we have the Sonos Radio HD. I'll give you the backstory first. So we do know that most listening on Sonos is done through radio. And we really believe that there could be a better solution out there in terms of radio. So with Sonos Radio, you can not only listen to local stations or any station around the world, but also it's more curated. At Sonos, we are a bunch of music heads. We work with a ton of artists to kind of get what they're listening to. And we wanted to bring that into the world for everyone to kind of understand what's going on behind the music. It's like that old Hollywood true story stuff, behind the music. We want to know what's going on with these artists. So we work with a lot of different artists to get one curated playlist, what they're listening to on a daily basis, but also genre-based stations. So one of my favorites, I live in the South, so I listen to a ton of country music. Hot country is one of the most popular stations on Sonos Radio, and then it goes all the way down from not just regular music stations, but also we have this ever-growing selection of curated stations that provide perfect audio, whether you're making a cup of coffee, playing with your kids, or literally sleeping. Now we have sleep stations. It's not just music listening, it's music for all types of moods and all types of situations.
How have you managed to maintain those relationships with those streaming services so consistently? Because that's one of my biggest frustrations is, like, right now, for the past 9 months, I haven't been able to watch any of the Dallas sports teams because of services fighting with each other. How
and who says there's a downside to COVID?
Yeah. So, one of the things with us and all of our partners with, the music streaming world, we have over 143 music services available inside of Sonos, and that's globally, right? Some countries are going to have access to some that others don't. Here in the U.S., it's close to 100, which is crazy to think about that there's that many streaming services out there. But it all goes back to kind of our intent. Our intent is to, one, get people listening to more music in the home, but also we always have the artist's best intent in mind as well.
Do you have stations from outside the US that the people in the US can listen to? Could I get an English station where they speak English?
It all depends if it's, on Sonos Radio, for example, we do have, certain stations that, come from the UK. In terms of UK-based streaming services, it's all based on their availability if they're available in the US. If the answer is yes on that, then yeah, you can get it right here in the right here in your Sonos system in Texas, for example. One of the really coolest stations that I like to listen to that I just discovered is I think it's called Super J out of Australia, and it's right there on Sonos Radio, and it's really different. It's all about discovering new music, and that's we as humans get kind of stuck in repetitiveness. We listen to the same stuff all the time. We always have those go-to tracks or go-to moments. Because music brings us back to a time and place, of a memory. But how do we create those new ones? And that's kind of one of our big goals at Sonos.
So talk a bit more about the HD service. Is that like the Tidal Masters type recordings? What is the HD service?
It's close, right? So it is the most premier experience from a radio standpoint out there. It streams at lossless CD audio quality. If you really want to get techie, it's 16-bit 441 FLAC for those listening that understand what I just said. But comparative to, and I don't want to put anybody down, but, some of our other services that offer radio and free radio are lower than that. So, again, it all goes back to being able to hear the music the way it was supposed to be heard, the best way possible. And Sonos Radio HD gives you a little bit more things than, obviously, the free version. The availability to skip tracks. If you don't like a song, skip it. It's great. That's my favorite thing because I tend to do that in the car. I tend to, if a song comes on the radio, I'm always pushing buttons to get to the next song. So Sonos Radio having that ability, plus more curated stations and more exclusive stations. We just launched a station with Dolly Parton. What is she listening to? Those type of things. And we're always growing that content.
I'm assuming a lot of metal from Dolly Parton's station.
Oh yeah, totally metal Dolly Parton. But there is a really great metal station, and forgive me for not knowing the name of it because we have so many, but there is actually a really great metal station.
So I only have, when my wife has the radio on in the car, I only am allowed to change the track when James Taylor comes on. So because I can't listen to James Taylor. So that's the next step in this technology, exclude certain artists as well. That would be great.
It's something, obviously I can't speak on any software or hardware that may be coming in the future, But we are always taking feedback and listening. That's the big thing, right? We're always taking feedback and always trying to make the experience better for the consumers, because at the end of the day, they're the ones, that kind of drive what we're doing.
Speaking of new hardware and software, I think I saw. I'm an investor in Sonos. Probably one of your biggest investors. But I saw news that they were going to keep the offices closed probably until September. Do you think that's going to do anything to impact new software, new hardware, updates like that?
No, we're constantly working. We've been work from home for a while now. Obviously, I can't speak too much on all that because I don't want to get in trouble.
I had to ask.
We don't mind you getting into trouble. It doesn't worry us.
Yeah, but it's something, again, we work really hard to keep, to make sure that, we give our employees the best chance to succeed in this work from home environment.
So I guess the other, time we're spending at home is time that we would have been going to the cinema. And
yes,
we won't talk about Wonder Woman 84 because that's just a sad story for all of us. But it looks like Warner Brothers is going to keep putting movies on. We'll wait and see how long they can keep the James Bond. Not that that's Warner Brothers off a streaming service, but that must have been a good year for you on that type of stuff. And I know you continue to expand those products, don't you?
Absolutely. We just came out with the Sonos eARC that it replaced the Sonos Playbar, which was in market for almost 7.5 years, which is, again, crazy to think about. But as music changes, obviously, but as movies and how we get our content changes, we had to as well. So the Sonos eARC comes equipped with 3D sound, which allows us to get Dolby Atmos sound, which is the newest and hottest technology when it comes to Dolby audio. And you're right. We've seen this shift of all of these movies, starting with Wonder Woman 1984, which we won't talk about it, which thank you, because not a fan. But it was a big step in the right direction in terms of where we are in COVID, and we still need entertainment. We need the entertainment. So taking advantage of all of that. Plus, we have a great new streaming service in Disney Plus that's almost a year. I think it's a year old at this point. And they just keep cranking out great content with The Mandalorian and now WandaVision, which is a Marvel series, and they've got Falcon and Winter Soldier, and hopefully we get Black Widow soon because I need my Marvel movies in my life sooner than later. So how we, that all of that we had to think about, and that's one of the reasons why eARC has been such a great product by itself, but also why we've seen people are enjoying movies at home, and that's great. And again, another feature that we just added last 2 months ago in December was a dual sub feature. This feature has been a major feature request since I became an employee at Sonos. Everybody wants more bass, and it does sound awesome. So now with our new S2 app and our new product line, again, marrying that hardware and software together, we're able to deliver these really great experiences inside the home.
Now, is the second sub just on the eARC, or is that across the other products as well?
What's great about it is you can do it on any home theater product. So you can do 2 subs on Beam, you can do 2 subs on Playbar, you can do 2 subs on even Playbase. There is a caveat. You do have to have a sub Gen 3, so the newest version of the sub. You just have to have one of them, but you could have an older sub. So if you had an original sub when it came out with Playbar and you want to expand that, you just go pick up a sub Gen 3. Now you've got Playbar and 2 subs, and I have it on eARC, and it's awesome.
And when does the quad sub feature launch?
It's funny. It's funny you say that, because we fought so long to get dual sub as a feature, and finally we're here. And the first question I got from one of our partners was, "So when can I do 3?"
I always give a mouse a cookie.
Yeah, I always ask, how much sub is too much, and Keith always shakes his head and assumes I just don't understand.
That's not for me, Nigel. I understand. I'm realistic. I just know the questions I'm going to get from my technicians.
And here's the thing, and for consumers, for any consumer that may be listening, you think of low frequency sounds with subs as waveguides, right? You have peaks and you have valleys, and every room is going to have valleys. So you may have some dropouts. So if it's a large room, adding a second sub is not only going to be one louder to your ears, but it's also going to even it out. So you don't have as many peaks and valleys. You have more peaks than you do valleys. And what's great is they play in phase together. So it's treated as a single subwoofer. And if you've ever heard our sub by itself, it absolutely rocks. And now just imagine adding a second one. So it's, again, it may not be for everyone, but it's a really cool, innovative way to add a little bit more sound to your room.
So I have a very stupid technical support question. So I am an eARC owner, and I think it's with a sub 2 and 2.1 speakers, I think they're called, for the sound around. But I stare at the HDMI cable and the optic cable. And to be honest with you, I have no idea which to use. Is there any difference? Does it matter?
Yeah. It matters. And I'll kind of break this down in a couple of different ways. There are a ton of different audio codecs out there. Just to kind of rattle some off. You've got Dolby Digital 5.1. You've got Dolby Digital Plus. You've got Dolby Digital True HD. You've got stereo, all of those things. Now, the great thing about the Sonos ARC is it does come equipped with an optical to HDMI adapter. Now, the Sonos ARC itself has an input for enhanced audio return channel. Enhanced audio return channel is like a fire hose. And what I mean by that is it can take every audio codec out there. However, it is a newer technology. So some TVs from 2020 and then a lot more TVs in 2021 have enhanced audio return channel. Most TVs built within the last few years have always had audio return channel. Think of audio return channel as a garden hose. It can take a little bit more than a faucet can, but it can't take as much as that fire hose and enhanced audio return channel. So it really comes back to your television. We have all of these streaming services, whether you're playing it through a Roku or an Apple TV or a Fire Stick, however you're getting your content, or even built into the television. But what can the TV output? Sonos is only going to take what the TV gives us. So optical actually limits you in terms of your audio codec. So the highest it can do is a Dolby Digital 5.1. On the flip side, enhanced audio return channel gives you everything. So it really just depends on your television.
And that ARC is an HDMI cable, isn't it? So if my TV, on the little things on my TV says ARC, connecting that to my Sonos soundbar will give me all this sexy sound that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's going to give you, the most audio quality that you can get, but it's also going to give you a couple of other things. It's called CEC control, which allows us to utilize whatever remote that you use to change the channel without any programming to turn the volume up and down. So very seamless way of doing things, or even going back to voice control. Because it's the CEC is able to give the television commands, I can say, hey, Amazon, turn the family room off. And it will turn the TV off just like that, or turning it on. So HDMI audio return channel or enhanced audio return channel gives you a little bit more flavor to the spice instead of just the audio quality, where optical is just going to give you audio.
I think I should mention right here that just in case anybody's scared, if someone works with Bravas, neither Nigel nor I will show up at their house to install their equipment. I think that's probably a very important point to make as we're asking stupid questions. But speaking of stupid questions, actually, I don't think this one's stupid. You were talking about how well you work with Amazon and Google products, but also JoshAI. And I find it really interesting. There are very few products that have done such a good job of appealing both to the, what we would call like the do-it-yourself channel and to our channel, the custom integrator channel. Again, it probably is that special sauce, but like, what do you think has allowed you to endear yourself to both channels and to be a product that can work in both situations?
To be honest, we were kind of adopted from the Pro channel from the beginning. So we, in my heart, so I cover, as a national trainer, I cover the Pro channel. I am, deep with the CI channel, and it is kind of like in my heart at this point. But the Pro channel kind of adopted us first, and then it kind of grew from there. And the aura of Sonos kept growing. And you went to a friend's house, like you said, or you went to your parents' house and they have Sonos, and then you tell your friend, and then your friend tells a friend, and it just keeps going on. But it goes back to being able to do a little bit of everything, right? If you just want to pick up a Sonos One and plug it in and download the app and go, you can. But you can also get very intricate with the system. It doesn't have to be set-top speakers. If you want 32 zones of Sonos and you want it all architectural, you can buy 32 amps and have 32 zones of audio. And of course, in that situation, if you're not comfortable with installing it, you call your local integrator and they get you hooked up the right way and get your network solid. And it all goes back to kind of marrying everything together. We've done a great job of making sure our partners, the open line of communication. And I mentioned JoshAI because it's one of my favorite products out there in the custom channel right now. And all the guys over at JoshAI are just fantastic people to talk to and be around. And it's just great conversations, lead to great things.
I think JoshAI is the voice version of Sonos in the sense that it really does exactly what it promises. It's a fantastic experience. It's even a beautiful design, like beautifully designed product. Like they go very well together.
Alex and the team have done such a tremendous job, starting that product and then just taking off with it. And if you're not familiar with JoshAI, Keith said it is like the Amazon or Google for the Pro channel, but you can get really intricate with a lot of the commands and a lot of the different things that you can do with it. I'm sure there's videos on YouTube of how it works, but it's beautiful to check out.
Well, and I think we probably need to get JoshAI on this podcast because I know it's a subject which I don't know much about. I'd like to just change the subject here though a bit. Music and health. Is that a thing that you've been thinking about this year? Is that a focus for you guys?
Absolutely, it's been a focus for us for a few years now. We really set out to understand what music not only did to in the home, how it affected the home, but also how it affected you as a person. And we've done countless studies, being able to take test subjects, if you will, and kind of monitor them and see what's going on. And one of the ones that we did was called Music Makes It Home, where we had a group of people. I can't remember the exact number of people we surveyed, but we gave them 1 week with no music, none in the home. They couldn't listen to anything. In the second week, we actually outfitted them with obviously Sonos, but also heart rate monitors and Apple Watches and an iPhone to kind of document their experiences. And some of the results were really telling. And I just pulled it up. It's our Music Makes It Home study was 30,000 people in 8 different countries.
Wow.
When I say a few, it's a lot more than a few. But
that's a sample.
Yeah, it started with a 41 question survey to get a feel how people, how did you perceive the connection between music and kind of your health, and a lot of things that came out of that. And some of these stats are really crazy, but they're awesome to think about. They say that nearly 60% of the people say that food tasted better with music. And you start to relay that to thinking about when we went to bars and restaurants. And, I personally love to just go hang out at a brewery or a bar, but I was also very careful. If the music was too loud, I probably never went back there. If it just didn't mix right with the food, it didn't hit right. But I have been to some experiences where the music is just right, the vibe is just right, and everything worked. We also found that they actually shared more meals together when there was music in the home. I love to cook. I live in the South, so I love barbecue. I love to make my own barbecue. So when I am outside cooking, guess what? I'm listening to music. And it's something my wife and I, instead of, we both work from home. So we have a 9-month-old son. Instead of, us getting off work and turning the TV on while we're cooking dinner, we make sure to turn the music on because it's so important for culturally, for our son to kind of get a sense of music and not have to rely on television all the time. So it's just another great way to bring everybody a little bit closer together.
Yeah, I think we've seen that in our own house. My daughter's now 5, and one of the things that she'll do as we're getting ready for dinner every night and setting the table is she'll run over to our touch panel and climb up on our little step stool and fire up the music. And when we remember to turn music on and sit down for our meal, we stay a little longer. We all do the dishes together. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, sometimes just in the middle of dinner, she'll jump up and she and my wife will start dancing in the kitchen. And those are great experiences that just really don't happen in a silent house.
And another thing too, it's not only just the music itself, but it's also the type of music. And again,
Yeah.
going back to another study we did as well, it's called the Brilliant Sound Survey, where we were able to take, let's say a gym, for example, and a fit class, and people listening to music as they're working out. What we were able to find is we monitored them. I don't know if we did it; somebody did it. They were monitored, not listening to music while they were working out, and then on OK sound system, and then in what we call brilliant sound. And we were able to find that they actually worked out harder the better the sound was, right? So it's not just the music in the home, it's also how it sounds as well. 84% of people say that they party harder when there's better sound on. I don't know who those 16 people are, but I don't know if I want to hang out with them, right? But
I think they're called alcoholics.
Yeah.
No, but I get the gym thing, because in the days when I went to gyms before they were all banned, if the person running the class had rap on, which just doesn't talk to me, I found my workout tedious. But if for some reason, if it was music that was closer to my age than
James Taylor.
Yeah, except for James Taylor.
100% James Taylor.
Yeah, then that would, at least for me, if you put on the 80s station, which I'm sure was hideous for everybody else in the gym, but at least it gave me something to get motivated to.
Yeah, it all goes back to, healthy living, because, again, we are living in a world of COVID, and like you said, things changed. I was someone that was a gym rat every single day. I never missed a day. And then COVID hit, and I had no idea what to do, because I wasn't equipped to have anything in the house. Now, you throw in things like Pelotons and home gym workouts, and that all goes together with music.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, listen, a lot of great stuff. I think we could talk about this forever, but the time
Good.
marches on. So before we let you go, we always sort of play this game with our guests to learn a bit more about your personal and private life. 3 quick questions. I know Keith's wincing.
Not too much. Not too much.
That's okay.
Well, he knows what's coming. So when you think about your home automation today, JT, what's the one piece of home automation, if we can't guess, that you couldn't live without?
I'm going to go ahead and not say Sonos, because obviously that is one that I absolutely can't live without. That's an obvious statement. But again, being in the tech world, and having growing up in the tech world, the one piece that I actually can't go without is actually my Lutron Caseta lighting system. Just again, I'm the type of person that I will forget to turn off the lights, right, when I leave a room. And now you can have sensors that automatically turn the lights off, or if you leave, I can just simply open my app on my phone and turn the lights off. Or even if I know that I know it's a hot day outside, I need to get some air flowing, I can not only open my Ecobee thermostat, but I could also turn on the fan in my room too. Like, it's one of my favorite pieces of product besides Sonos. And of course, I can't live without my music, but I decided to go a different direction.
Look,
We appreciate that.
Yeah, and look, anyone who's had lighting control will never live without it if they have a chance again. So I'm sure you've seen at your time with Sonos some incredible jobs, some incredible situations. What's one of the most interesting jobs you remember you guys working on?
So just recently, actually, for all of our install partners in the Pro Channel, we did a best installs of 2020, and we polled dealers across the U.S. we really wanted to see like how you guys do it, right? You all are the professionals, and one of the ones that we just we just saw was it was a few connected Sonos amps with a few ports, all controlled by JoshAI, and it was super intricate. Of course, the network was rock solid. They had a big, beautiful picture of the rack with I think it was 6 to 8 amps and a few ports, and obviously the wire management was just impeccable. Of course, us as tech guys, when we see wire management, we're like, oh man, that is, you know what it takes to do it, right? It's not a fun job to do, which hats off to any technician that may be listening, because I don't have the patience to do it. But the rack was color coded, and then it was all controlled by Josh, right? And it was just, the video of going from room to room and interacting with all of that was just seamless and beautiful.
Great. And by the way, one of the things we at Bravas pride ourselves on is good racks. So we give good racks. So if you want to come and see some nice pictures, we can show you some. Finally, is there a technology that's yet to be invented, some future? Where do you want it to go next? What would you, with your magic wand, you think you would like us to invent?
Man, it's such a that's a great question. One that I wasn't prepared for. Obviously, I love where technology is going and where technology is changing. As we continue to everyone invest in their home a little bit differently, smart home and smart home living is kind of in the forefront of almost everyone's mind, right? We're spending more time at home, so why not make your home a little bit smarter, a little bit safer, all around? And one of the things that I love about tech, and this is what I hope for the future, I hope all companies continue to work well together and really make an experience, not for themselves, but for the end consumer, because that's what it's all about at the end.
But I think that's a great note. And listen, we're really grateful, JT, for the time. If when you announce those 4 subs on your play bar or your Sonos, that you please come back, tell us more when there's more. I'm sure we'll get lots of questions. But for the moment, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I love doing these things. So anytime you want to have me on to chat, I am all for it.
Thanks.
I'm sure we'll have you back.